state, or
Uh,
okay, so now we're recording, right?
yeah, I got both. I want to check out both this time to see how Zoom does it versus OBS. I just want to compare and
Oh,
contrast.
should I start again?
Yeah, go.
Okay, hey everybody. So I'm Leon and I have a channel on life coaching and psychotherapy tools that are pretty effective. Everything, things I've learned from my program, but also have enacted on myself and also my clients, and helps people to reach a state of inner calm, helps people to reach their goals and dreams, work with their anxiety, sadness, things of that nature. And I also do a lot of writing in terms of mental health related stuff as well. Again, offering people these sorts of tools that are effective. Um, yeah, and that's basically what I want to share my for my
Yeah,
intro.
so he has two channels. He has one for that, and he has one for typology. I actually found him a while back, and a lot of things Leon was saying about socionics and the connection between like type
Mhm.
strength. I found that to be very enlightening, where he
Right.
goes through like the strengths. And a
Hmm.
lot of people have these misconceptions that because they're not in your top four, that they're not strong. And then Leon,
Right.
in some of his videos, and he breaks that down. Um,
Right.
and he talks about like how the opposing personality can be a lot stronger than what people think. The critic is very strong in a lot of individuals. Sometimes
Hmm.
like we have one of our buddies, Thomas is INTJ, and his TI when he takes Dario Nardi's test, which measures like your cognitive function strengths. His
Hmm.
TI actually gets Thomas typed as an INTP on Dario Nardi's assessment, but like we said, it types you based off of your cognitive strengths. Uh,
Hmm.
so,
Right.
um,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have my channel Type Tips, and I do talk about how we use all eight of the cognitive functions.
mhm,
And one thing I really want to capture is the complexity of types. So I'm kind of moving more towards the idea that every function plays a specific role in the type and not like one that's inferior to the other, but it's just different in the particular role that it plays in the type. So every type plays a special role regarding every single function.
mhm,
I think it adds that extra layer of complexity because I believe that sensing types express intuition in a way that intuiting types don't,
mhm,
and intuition types express sensing in a way that sensing types do not.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I found I fell onto Leon page, and it was quite enlightening. And it was
Hmm.
great. It helped me with a lot, and it helps me with like typing people and stuff. Because sometimes
Mm.
when you're typing celebrities or whatnot, you will see the critic come out a lot.
Mm.
You'll see some of the opposing personalities come out a lot sometimes too. And if you're unaware of that, you can make a lot of mistakes. And I believe that's the reason why a lot of people mistype Elon Musk as an INTJ when he's an INTP and stuff like that. And
Mm.
check out Leon's material. Leon, how did you get into type?
Well, this is an interesting story. So basically, I this is all the way back in high school, and the teacher created a really crazy assignment for us, which is we had to write about each of our classmates, but we barely know anything about them because we've just met them for like the first time. And so you have to come up with something. You have to write on a note card something about them, and then give it to them. And this is just people had a hard time with it. But I figured, oh, why don't I just figure out people's Myers-Briggs type?
Mm-hmm.
And I just learned about the Myers-Briggs from the same teacher. The teacher uh, got us to take the Myers-Briggs test. And when I looked at it, I tested between INTP and INFP, like
Mm-hmm.
50-50 thinking, feeling, and like 100% intuition, 100% introversion.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at the description, I was like, well, INFP is the one that rings true. There's definitely I am that and not the other. And later on, I come to discover it's not because I don't have thinking; it's just the way I express thinking
Mm-hmm.
in my own type. And so I figured out the teacher is an ENFP. That's why he came up with such a bizarre assignment.
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. Yeah. So that's how I got into typology itself.
Hmm. So, how do INFPs express TE and TI?
How do INFPs express TI and what? TE and TI?
Because you're an INFP.
Yeah. Well, I think this is interesting. I want to make this relatable to all the types. So for
Okay.
every type, the inferior function is the project.
Hmm.
That's what they work towards. Their primary function is the manager. This is how they handle things day by day. It's very natural to them. But the project becomes like this all-consuming vision. Um, we kind of look at the project in a very meta kind of way. So what I mean by that, so with I would take example for INFP, right? INFP, in terms of introverted feeling, we're very aware and sensitive to our own emotions,
Hmm.
very much on a regular basis.
Hmm.
In terms of extra thinking, it's weak. So meaning in terms naturally, in terms of being able to plan, organize, efficiency, um, that is not that's not very available to us. Like we don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
But there's an aspiration towards it. So that's why there's a bit of a meta view of expert thinking. Like we have a sense that's missing in our lives. So that's what we kind of unconsciously strive for.
Hmm.
Um, and so when I compare this to intuitive thinking, that's a very interesting thing because when I first learned about the cognitive functions, it didn't make a lot of sense to me because the questions is your thinking introverted or extroverted? So it's kind of obvious to me that my thinking is more introverted in a way, as in that was my strength, like my relative strength. So my thinking is not a general strength, but if I was to say thinking is introverted or extroverted, I say, well, it makes more sense. It's introverted, but according to the system, I have extroverted thinking. So what is that about?
Hmm.
So I didn't discover until years later that has to do with socionics. So socionics, my introverted thinking is stronger.
Hmm.
So naturally, and if I take Darinardi's keys of cognition test, I'll score really terribly, like not terribly, but like really bad at extra thinking. Extra thinking is my bottom two, and
Hmm.
then intra thinking somewhere in the middle. So what is that about?
Hmm.
Um, so intra thinking, I think a good way to look at it is compare INFPs and ENFPs because ENFPs, their intra thinking is shit. This is absolutely it's awful. It's shit. So
So
they
what he
yeah.
means is that uh introverted thinking and ENFP is in the seventh spot. So
Right.
they're completely, they think they're actually good at it, but they're actually not great at them at all.
Mhm.
They seem to not be able to use a logical framework to solve anything. So yeah,
Yeah.
keep.
Whereas I kind of emphasize that a bit. I kind of need a bit more of a framework.
Hmm.
For example, I'll give the example of learning languages. So a lot of times ENFPs are actually really good at learning languages.
Hmm.
And the reason why is that when you want to learn languages well, you don't want to focus on grammar. You
Hmm.
want to focus on just kind of getting out there, you're practicing. They have a very strong intuition, so they learn really fast, but
Hmm.
they also use expert thinking. They're just very pragmatic about it. So if they want to practice, they go out, they just like practice with people, and then they see like what works, what doesn't work, right? So that's the pragmatism, that's expert thinking. They don't focus on introvert thinking. So they learn languages quickly because they're not so caught up on, oh, when I'm learning this, is this correct? Is this incorrect? That
Hmm.
slows everything. Introvert thinking slows everything down.
Hmm.
So the advice is like when you learn language, it's all input. The grammar, like how they teach it in school, is like a terrible way to teach it. But but I think I'm slower than them in that regards because I'm learning Spanish and Chinese. I need to sit down and I need to create a framework and kind of figure out slowly like what works, what's correct, what's incorrect.
Hmm.
But I'm not an introvert thinking type piece. I'm not an INTP because there's something a bit sloppy about it. Like I'm not doing it like it's not cultivated perfectly well.
Effective.
And yeah, so it's you're using that because you're an extrovert thinker.
Yeah.
Effective, yeah.
Yeah.
But like so that's like a so introvert thinking, I find the whole idea of valued versus unvalued functions to be kind of misleading because I think I do value introvert thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not the same. So it's more like if you had four functions to be able to identify a type, uh, it's the valued functions. So it's basically the traditional MBTI system for INFP, introvert in feeling, extrovert intuition, introvert sensing, extrovert thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you read the description, oh, I'm strong at first two, last two is kind of something that I'm lacking in my life. I need more of that in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the framework. That that's what's meant by valued functions, but it's misleading because I do value introvert thinking, like I'm using it. I find it interesting
Mm-hmm.
to take part in, but it doesn't belong in that framework of that's something that I have to have. I feel like there's a complete lack,
Mm-hmm.
like this lack of extra thinking, and I need it,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's introvert thinking. So for me, like the tertiary and the eighth function,
Mm-hmm.
those are the weekend functions. So if I'm working, I need some rest. Right. So I rest using introvert sensing and introvert thinking. So I see introvert thinking as a form of recreation almost.
Mm-hmm.
As much as much as introvert sensing. It's again, it's like it's interesting information to me, but why I don't value it is that I don't think things come down to
Mm-hmm.
introvert thinking. Like things are not ultimately definable in terms of definitions, in terms of um, getting things down to some underlying system. Ultimately, for me, things are felt. If
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
So what I've noticed is that the reason why INFPs are or whatnot, it goes to the hero function. If
Mhm.
you're all about FI, then naturally you're not gonna care about TE and TI as much. Because feelings, what I've noticed is that feelings aren't logical. Feelings
Mhm.
don't have a framework. If you are to value them and understand them, they don't work in a framework type thing. So
Mhm.
naturally, if you're putting that first, then you have to put the other things behind that.
Right.
As in
Well,
like a
they're naturally opposing.
yeah,
They're opposites.
they're on the opposite they're on opposites. But that's what I've noticed. So they'll there's sometimes where they say like the demon function just doesn't care.
Mm.
So you'll notice like a ENTJ just doesn't care how other people feel. They just don't care. Okay.
Mhm.
Unless they actually like want to put in energy, but like majority of the time when they're doing something, it's not like their goal is to like care about how other people feel. Like they
Right.
just literally
They do care. They don't. It's like the whole entire idea of the social parameters. Like they don't care about having to follow the
social
I
norms.
get the social norms about it.
But it's what people need to realize is that everyone is like if you follow Dario Nardi's work, you will understand that everyone's able to use the functions at a basic
Mhm.
level,
Mhm.
okay? But then there's an advanced level, okay? And the higher the function is for you, the more likely you are to be able to use it in an advanced level. Like an INTP will use TI in an advanced level. As an INFP, we'll probably use it as a basic to mid-level function, but INTP can really highlight TI strengths
Yeah.
as opposed to an ENTJ does TE, at the highest rate,
Right.
But you'll notice like the lower the function, the least likely they are to care about it as much. Like
Um.
for instance,
y-
me on FE, like it's second. It's just like secondary. Like I have to train my brain to think about like okay, we have to ask everybody how they feel about something instead of just shooting at what's effective, because I naturally just shoot at what's effective. But now I've got to the point where I've gotten older in life where I'll still shoot at what's effective. And then I kind of pull it back and say, okay, let me ask people how they feel before I just do this. Okay. But when I was younger, it was just boom. And then somebody would be like, well, you didn't think about how I felt about this.
Hmm.
I remember I threw one time, there was two people were um, leaving on different days, and it was in the same week, and we're supposed to throw a party for them. And I just said, "Fuck it, we'll throw the party for the one person the day that they leave, and we'll just combine the parties." But the other person who was leaving the next day felt like they should have had their own party. I was like, "Well, you're killing resources because not everybody has to buy things twice to make you feel special. That doesn't make that's not efficient, and it doesn't sound logical at all." So that was at a time where I bypassed how somebody felt to do what was effective. See, my brain just naturally jumps at what's effective and not like how other people feel about it. You know, like I
Right.
said,
Yeah.
like the best thing to do would have been to ask them, "Hey, is it okay if we combine these parties? Um, you know, we don't want people to be spending money twice, just to make your ass feel special." You know, you know.
You find in it, and well, we're using X-ray feeling, it maximizes your X-ray thinking, and
Yeah.
so it helps out. So the value functions are the ones that we ultimately see, like they kind of ultimately matter to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think basically for the other functions, they do kind of become a means to an end in a
Mm-hmm.
way, because I do value X-ray thinking. So I do think about how things should be more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think everyone kind of strives towards their inferior function in that sense. Because if you listen to INTP's talk over time, it looks like they're very interested in culture. They're very interested in the way that people come alive in the world. They're always like watching it from a distance. Like that's why they like to watch a lot of TV shows. Is that they don't want to, they're afraid to engage in the world, but they like to observe it. They
Well,
like to observe expert feeling.
I think people just don't realize about INTPs is they actually really care.
They care a lot. Yeah,
They care a lot
they're
more
very,
than you
they're
believe.
concerned.
Like they care a
Yeah,
lot more than you believe, but you just can't read it, you know. But a lot of
right.
choices they make or things that they do, it actually tries to benefit the tribe or
Yeah,
people.
it's all about the other person, and they don't think about themselves. And that's why they have a lot of anxiety around other people. It's
Mm-hmm.
because they can't express extra feeling well, but they're always worried about what people are feeling. And
Mm-hmm.
then so for me, and when I talk with ISFPs and INFPs, we're actually like very fixated on the idea of goals,
Mm-hmm.
but there's an issue about like how to go about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think after talking with INTPs, I realized that I could alleviate my anxiety by focusing on some other things besides this narrow focus on goals and how I'm doing those goals or not doing those goals. So ISFPs and INFPs are very focused on the goals and dreams and very anxious about whether they're doing it or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting this concrete results. So that's been very helpful for me to know.
Yeah, I mean, so what can we be expecting from you in the future, Leon?
The future.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go into some really deep dive into the typology stuff. So I'm gonna be talking about how you're using each function in a very unique way as your type,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for instance, like expert feeling is still like a middle function for me,
Mm-hmm.
meaning it's not valued. So I think in the end, like because I have like a focus on or fixation on X-ray thinking, even though it's weak, it kind of because I have a value in it, it kind of that focus helps it to bring it to almost. I'm trying to find some way to describe it. So let's compare this with X-ray feeling. X-ray feeling, I'm more naturally strong at than X-ray thinking,
Mm-hmm.
but because I don't like care about it so much that I don't put a lot of attention into it. And whereas with extra thinking, it's weaker, but since I put a lot of attention to it, it's almost as if this kind of equalizes the two, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense in the end.
So what I'm picking up is that you're saying
Mhm.
that the first four functions you have more cognitive control over them, and
Yeah.
the other four are kind of unconscious. They
Mhm.
require a little bit more work to use, but they're a lot stronger if you do use them. Is that what you're saying?
Well, like extra thinking still remains like a weak function, but like there's a focus on it because I'm putting attention to it. It kind of makes up for the weakness of it. Whereas with extra feeling, it's stronger, but I kind of push it away, and therefore it kind of takes away from its strength.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it almost kind of like equalizes the functions in a way. Like my overall contribution in extra feeling, extra thinking is roughly equal.
Mm-hmm. Do
Yeah.
how do you what I've noticed with INFPs is that they listen very well to people. Like they listen,
Hmm.
they absorb like everything that the person's
Right.
saying. They're very like good with that. And Dario Nardi talks about that in the book. I think INFPs have the longest listen time, and they actually go and flow and they're actually listening to people.
Hmm.
Kind of cool.
Hmm.
Um, have you noticed anything about that yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, I mean you are.
See,
I mean you
I think
are.
I'm,
That
yeah,
is your
I,
living
I've like, I multiplied that too because I work as a therapist.
therapist.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the toughest battles for yourself, your content, and yeah.
The toughest battle, well, I struggled with social anxiety in the past, and yeah, that had been really, that's one of my toughest challenges, and that was really hard to overcome. But even when it was really bad, I decided to really challenge myself. So uh, I I was pretty shit at talking. Like I just had just too much anxiety just even talking with one person. But I
Mm,
decided, why don't I just apply to do a TEDx talk, right? So it's like an extreme because then I have to talk in front of hundreds of people. And when I applied, I was like, why the hell did I decide to do that to myself? It's like a punishment, right? So it's such an awful, like I'm like such a ditz when it comes to talking with one person and talking in front of everybody. And I had to like really train myself. I remember I was practicing and my jaw was like in a lot of pain when I was practicing. I had a team to help me out. And so I got to the competition phase. So that's when you speak on stage, but they select the ones who get to do the TEDx talk. It was kind of awkward on stage, though. I didn't get it the first time, right?
mm,
But next year I applied again, and that year I just like improved my social confidence, and I got to do the TEDx talk. And I remember being on stage thinking, "Wow, I'm like it's amazing. I'm here." Like doing that talk. And ever since I've been like emphasizing that. So they say like the way you need to be healed in life is how you heal others, because that's if that becomes your focus, because you're fixated on something. So I used to believe, I won't become some sort of leader because I'm just like a shy person, but
mm,
I became very focused on that. So I started to, I give workshops for people with social anxiety, and
mm,
I have workshops every week. I lead a depression support group, um, and I often like to give talks and interviews and things like that. I recently spoke for New York Mental Health Counseling Association, teaching other therapists how to use a specific model in therapy.
damn, you're quite accomplished, man. Holy
Thank
shit.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. I always when I think about INFPs, I think they're like one of the hardest workers out there when it comes to things because their functions aren't really that valued by society. Uh,
Hmm.
so it causes them to have to really develop to make it. Um,
Right.
opposed to somebody like myself can literally run away from my inferior function all my life. And the only time where I actually need to actually care about my demon function is when I have a relationships and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Children, because you don't want your kids to hate you. I remember when I was a
Right.
kid, my brother told me my kids would end up hating me. My brother's ECP, and he told my kids. I still remember that to this day. He told my kids would grow up to hate me. So, uh, you eventually you do have to work on some of the things, but the world kind of rewards you in different places.
Right. Hmm.
And Yeah, I mean that's phenomenal. So you do the coaching every week.
Mhm.
Um, can you give us a little about like exactly what the coaching is? I seen you did the last guy, Albert. I forget his last name.
Albert Ellis.
Albert Ellis and
Yeah,
his strategies.
right.
So how do you come up with your workshops every week?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to tell you, like when it comes to a workshop, it's my most TE place in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like in terms of areas of my life where I cultivate extra thinking, that's like the best example of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I learned from an ENTJ who he still runs meetups, but I saw how he just kept streamlining. He keeps streamlining the meetups every single time. So it's basically the same approach. So I said, if I want to be good at teaching people how to use skills to help themselves, I first have to read, I have to teach, I have to, in the group, I have to teach myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have to teach my clients, and I have to teach myself before I teach my clients, and
Mm-hmm.
also the workshop group, because then that's the most effective. At a subconscious level, they're going to sense if you know your stuff or
Mm-hmm.
not, and you only know your stuff if you practice on yourself. And this is like it becomes like a four-way of being able to teach myself how to use these skills, because it's I learn from the books. Have to teach in two different ways, and I have to teach myself as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, and when I give these workshops, I explain things in a way that you could understand. So I'm using tools that psychotherapists use. I'm laying it out
Mm-hmm.
for everyone to be able to understand very clearly. And I give very specific, concrete advice
Mm-hmm.
about like how do you use these skills. So I it's more than a presentation, it's an interaction. So I present on a material, but we're all interacting with it because I know they're going to be learning from each other the best if they're hearing from each other
Mm-hmm.
how they're going to use the skills. And also, I'm going to be learning from them too,
Mm-hmm.
like just how they're interacting with my material. And afterwards, we have a Q&A and they can ask any sort of questions and I answer them. So that's what I'm working on right now. I have some plans. If I could move closer into the city, and I've done this before, but I like to do more of it, is that if people have ADHD or social anxiety, I help them out by working with them outside of the office. So meaning like, say, yeah, anxiety with trains, I go with them on a train. Right? If they have anxiety around talking, like talking to people, I go with them into stores and they're going to talk with people. So
Mm-hmm.
things that, so like something of that degree of, because I think a lot of these things are, you have to be proactive about it,
Mm-hmm.
like proactive about addressing, making changes in your life.
Wow, wow, Leon, that's powerful, man. Some powerful
Mhm.
stuff there, man. Damn. Whew. So what time do you do these talks every week?
So my workshops are 7:30 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. So almost every Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go on Meetup, I'll send a link I'll send you a link to the Meetup group where I post.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could look that up. So like when there's a meetup, it's going to show up on a meetup group, on a meetup ad. And and yeah, so just remember 7:30 Eastern on Tuesdays.
So guys, we're going to be putting Leon in the description, his two type tips and his therapy YouTube. We're gonna
Yeah,
put both those in the description, and we're going to put the meetup group that he uses. If you guys want to do that, I highly recommend. If I wasn't working, I would definitely go to these because INFPs can really help ENTJs with FI, and
right,
by the use of FI, you can get a little bit closer and better with FE. So that would
right.
be tremendous for anyone who's struggling with emotions. Uh, Leon knows what he's talking about when it comes to depression. So if you need to talk to somebody about depression, and the thing is, there's a lot of people in the world right now that are struggling with depression.
Mhm.
So the first thing you can do is reach out to someone like Leon
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
try to climb out of that hole.
Right.
You know, but anything else you want to tell us, Leon?
Well, there's an interview with me and Mercer where Mercer teaches you how to get out of a hole. So be sure to check that one out.
Yeah,
When you go on my channel, just look for Mercer on there.
I noticed Leon, the way that Leon goes about what he does, it's easily acceptable and it's easily digestible. Um, so yeah, I don't know, maybe it's like an INFP superpower, but they just know how to get close to people. They know how to hit people where it really matters and
Right.
actually get change from people. Uh,
Right.
any tips for INFPs?
Any tips? Well, one thing I would say is we secretly have a fixation on expert thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to get good at expert thinking, you have to think about how ESTJs and ENTJs do it. So they're managing it on a day-to-day regular, right? So think about it that way, how you could get better at it in very concrete, regular ways of day-to-day, and stop fixating on a very meta sense, like is the world being efficient, right? Because that happens with inferior functions. It kind of takes on this broad meta view that could be all-consuming. And the less you fixate on that, the better you'll feel, and you'll know that at a meta sense, efficiency is not everything, but it's good to be able to work on it on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Um,
Yeah.
anything for INFPs for school? Anything like that you want to talk about?
For school itself,
Yeah.
I don't know. I talk with different INFPs, and they're at different places when it comes to school. Some are good, some are not.
Mm-hmm.
I think generally, on average, INFPs do decently or
Mm-hmm.
good. I think when they're out of school, they might have more difficulty because it's like a learning environment. So you just also school kind of provides a bit of structure, so it kind of makes up for the lack of extra thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be too much structure for an INFP.
Mm-hmm.
But INFPs have extra intuition. They learn reasonably well. I
Mm-hmm.
think when they're out in the world, like when they're out of school, there's not going to be that extra thinking provided for them. So they have to kind of like figure that out on their own. And then they have to learn how to develop it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This one is a big one. How does an
Mhm.
INFP find their purpose? That's a core need of an INFP is a purpose. So how do you find
Yeah.
purpose and meaning for an INFP?
Yeah. You need to get into the nitty-gritty, dirty world. Yeah, like the real world itself. Because what happens is going to be the trajectory of INFP. You're going to live in a fantasy, and the fantasy is not going to come true, and then reality is going to come crashing down, and it's going to be very painful. And so that's when you're going to encounter expert sensing, and you need to start to learn to use expert thinking on your own. You can't seek it from others yet. You learn how to use it to develop your way forward, because your vision, no matter how well you thought about it, is not you're not going to know if it works until you test it against the world, right? It's just going to be like an idea, that, and if you're not committed to making it a reality, then it's just an idea. And once you start working on, you only know what your purpose is when you start to work on reality, because reality is going to guide you to figure out how you could use your skills well. And later on, then your fantasy like nature is going to help you, because then it's working along with reality to kind of create a vision for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
it's hey, what he says is it works. What
Mhm.
I've noticed is just find your neighborhood ENTJ or ESTJ and tag along with them because the thing is uh INFPs have ideas, man. They really have ideas and they make really good suggestions, very thought out, and they know how to approach you and get you to do things. Uh, I have an INFP best friend, and she warns me a lot. She warns me a lot about my own health. Um, and it's like a teamwork type thing. I kind of get on her about being productive and getting things done. She gets on me about taking care of myself and give me like ideas. Well, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this, that type of thing. And that's made me a lot better. And she's helped me work on my introverted feeling. I don't think it'd be as good as it is today if it wasn't from her, but we do fight a lot. Sometimes I get into it and I tell her what is her high sense of morals or standards got her. Because sometimes I think you have to check your feelings for a lot of things to get things done. Because sometimes when you have your feelings attached to something, it could take you 6 months, 8 months, 2 years, 5 years to do something. When you could just reject your feelings for a short period of time and get something done.
Right.
So
I thought you were going to say like 6 centuries.
so like that's what I've noticed. And the thing is that INFPs just like I said, they know how to talk to pretty much anyone. And they really know how to talk to ENTJs. It's like Cody can literally get me to do pretty much anything. I almost feel I call him Prime Minister Cody. He's another INFP. He does like the coordination for all like our typing sessions and all that stuff like that. And going in the future, he'll probably, if we actually grow into like a bigger brand or whatnot, he'll be doing more of the customer service type things because he's phenomenal at that type of thing.
Right.
But like I said, Cody can pretty much get me to do anything because he just knows how to say it to me. Most people
Yeah.
can't get me to do jack shit because like the way they say it to me, it kind of like, no. But I'm telling you, when INFP says it to me, it's just like, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, when I hear that, I mean, this is my opinion. Someone who's able to know how to talk with people to get them to do stuff, I do relate that more with ENFP than INFP.
ENFP.
Yeah.
Mm,
They have a demonstrative expert feeling. So they that's their way of connecting with others.
well, the thing that I've noticed about ENFPs that don't, the thing about INFPs is they take you one-on-one and they talk to you and they ask you something. ENFPs may not do that. They may do it in front of people or whatnot, or like, but when INFP does it, it's like one-on-one, it's like close. It's it's like you actually feel like it's a genuine thing. As ENFPs, they're all spread out. They're, trying to help everybody. That doesn't do it for me. You get what I'm saying? That doesn't do it for me. That one-on-one kind of like, hey, this would be a suggestion here. If you haven't thought about this, you should try this. Oh, this will make this even better. But it's like a one-on-one type thing, and you can tell that the person genuinely cares. Sometimes ENFPs, I think they're just doing anything, and I don't want to talk bad about them, but I feel like they're all over the place, and they're trying to do everything, and they're talking to everybody, and they give you attention one time, and they take it away. As an INFP, it's like a whole bunch of attention,
Right.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like I said, just it's easier for me to listen to. It's easier for me to get to it.
Right.
As I feel like a lot of types can't get me to do anything. Like it's just like,
Right.
absolutely not. But yeah, you guys please check out Leon's group, um his meetups, and check out his channel. Like we say, Leon goes in depth into the functions. A lot of people don't do that and they get confused. And Leon's here to clarify that.
Right. Yeah.
He's a INFP on a mission. He's found his purpose in life. You can't stop INFP when they find their purpose.
Right.
So yeah. Anything else you want to say, Leon?
No, yeah, I really appreciate being on your show.
Thank you, Leon, and reach out anytime you want to, man. And I'll see you on the
Yeah.
monthly call
I
this
had
month.
that positive connection because I go to Mercer's group and it's just like it's contagious, like just to be around people who aspire to do things and they're just supporting each other. So I like that about what Mercer does.
Yeah, at Mongolian Mindset, we have the group. Uh, the overall goal for the group is to make everybody a better person. Uh,
Mm,
and on the side mission, possibly world domination. Because if you
mm.
become great in your country, I become great in my country. We come together, and the Freemasons don't have nothing on us. Okay, so that's kind of like my end evil goal here. But on a basic level, we just want to improve everybody. There's 24 hours in a day. I always say this: it's 24 hours in a day. I can only be good at certain things, so I'm gonna lean on somebody else who's good at another thing. Um,
Mm.
if you want to talk about certain things like finances and stuff like that, I'm really good at that. I've been in the stock market for like 5 years now. So like if you want to ask things like that, I'm really good at that. Leon's good with coaching. Like if you're depressed or whatnot, go to Leon. You know, he's gonna answer you questions. He's gonna give you valued information, and that's what the group's mostly about.
Right.
Instead of wasting time. So yeah, join our group and join Leon's meetup. It's gonna be great. But thank you for coming on the show, Leon. It was a pleasure. Man.
Absolutely.
All
Yeah, it's
righty.
a pleasure to be on the show.
All
Okay.
right, Leon, take
Take
it
care,
easy.
Mercer. Bye.